All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. Let's try to soften those roads and straighten those roads and make those roads easy. So here's something that you may not see. And again, remember I told you that CEO thing where they killed the CEO is going to get to the point if you don't be careful. Again, this is prophecy. You can change the future and not get to that point. But they're going to rip you into the streets and kill you. And they're going to destroy the surveillance network, the cameras, the Elon system, the AI. They're just going to kill it because they don't trust it. Because why? Because you're planning something. And you've already revealed some of it. Okay, let's look at this. You stopped funding, but you didn't stop the rocket entertainment funding. There's a reason that Cuba was taken over by Castro. You can call it communism and socialism and liberals all you like. It was corrupt and criminal, conservative bosses, the criminal bosses that were locking out the people from any money and any life and any liberty. People like Elon, people like Altman, got to the point where they felt that power surge was like an addiction. You got to wake up, all of them. I know you had pushback yesterday. I know you realize something's out there, right? Thank you, Larry. Well, you have to understand how you got in and what it really means. I mean, you may not be understanding it. Like, if you don't stop the bullshit that was going on during the Biden administration, and it is the deep state, if you just simply take over the deep state, the people will feel there's nothing they can do. And then they get that level where they killed the CEO. So again, I've brought this up before. Becoming the deep state is not ending the deep state. Right. But again, you got in there based upon a coalition, which means there are people that just simply want you to fix things. And again, part of it is the deep state. People don't talk about the oppression. They're afraid of it. Right. If you're going to oppress people, again, think about it. You stop some emergency funding by pushing a button, but you didn't stop the Elon rock. He called it rocket entertainment. It's his own words. Right. You didn't stop the rocket entertainment funding. You got to understand there's judges out there, and I'm trying to help you. They know you didn't stop the Elon rocket entertainment funding. And there's only one judge. So again, we know what you're trying to do. I mean, Elon up for the Nobel Peace Prize, is that real? Because that makes it just, you see, that's another thing where people look at it and go, well, what is the Nobel Peace Prize? Is it actually real? Or they just, whoever the spy says to put in, they put in, and then the boss that runs Nobel gets another $10 million? Is that what it is? I mean, it's ludicrous. The Nobel self-enriching and crony enriching crony prize. I mean, is that what it is? So again, you're about to get spanked by a bunch of judges, whether you be conservative or not, because it's not conservative to do some of what you're doing, although you call it conservative. Conservatism has limits in what it can do before it becomes something outside of conservatism, even if you call it that. So essentially, this fits in with what Fuentes said. If they become the deep state, he didn't say that, but that's the idea. Thanks, Larry. I think Elon thinks he's going to take us to the Argentina shuffle, where we just put people in the streets, and if you complain about it, we'll arrest you. Again, Elon's not been proven by anybody. He's never been to basic training. He's never been to any school. Again, Kristi Noem seems like she's doing great, but she's never been to the police academy. Never been to a law enforcement academy. She's never come up through the ranks in a law enforcement scenario. So again, we'll hang out with you and we'll do your stuff, but there's limitations. In fact, you haven't paid me yet. You know you owe me. Every last one of you owe me. Larry Ellison owes me. Elon Musk owes me. Trump owes me. So again, what you did and what you're doing right now, what I said could happen, there's a little bit more to see at present time of what could cause it. No, you're like Trump was like their last hope. He ran on the idea that I'm your last hope. Without me, you don't get anywhere. So if you get in there and they see you all getting everywhere, and they see Nobel Peace Prize Elon, they know the deal. So again, Shifty Schiff is just waiting. He ain't gonna sit around and let you get him. And at the most, it's going to take 2 years. In fact, you could be right now. You could be in charge, be investigated for a crime by an independent entity, right this very moment, and your people. Again, a state could also investigate you and your people. And it doesn't necessarily automatically go federal. Right. Again, you started at the lowest favorability rating. Again, the poll could be a lie because everybody lies. Right. But you started at the lowest favorability rating of any president since, what was it, World War II or something? So again, you don't have room to spare. And 2 years comes quick. I mean, Elon's like, he's going to get a meritorious medal of some sort, and we're all going to, wow. Hey. Right. I mean, apparently he turned off some veteran money, or somebody turned off some veteran money yesterday. But the rocket entertainment money's still flowing, isn't it? Big parties! If you ask me, you're all a bunch of welchers and you don't pay your debts. See what that does to you. Have fun, all of you talking shit about me. Have fun. Or you could pay me what you owe me. Not blackmailing you. There's obviously, you've all extorted and blackmailed me, or at least tried to, and it's obvious that you owe me for damages and help. Thank you, Larry. I thought maybe it was like something weird, you know, it wasn't real. Maybe it isn't. Nobel Peace Prize, Elon is hilarious. But again, you know what that is? It's one of two things. It's either the system saying, ha ha, and you thought this was real, right? Or they're trying to piss the people off so they rebel. Right. Well, it's obviously somebody, if Elon was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, it's obvious somebody within that system is wired to the spycraft thing. And they got the message that you put Elon in and you'll get something. Right. That's how it works. It ain't real. Could be Vladimir Putin sending that message. So the person that nominates, or the people that nominate Elon, they get another $10 million a piece or something like that. And then they walk around like, aren't we special? We built this up from scratch. We're Nobel Peace Prize people. Jesus Christ. It's all fake. Their system took them up, and that system is whatever it is. They don't work hard. Maybe Elon felt so guilty about, all the spies that promoted him in the world and gave him so much money that he makes it look like he has to make it look like he works hard. Again, remember, every one of those deportation officers is being told that they're a piece of shit that doesn't show up to work by a criminal boss named Elon Musk. I'd call you a criminal boss. You infer things about all of us. You realize that everybody that's out there, again, the person that was running DHS or ICE or something, he kind of said, well, if it's true, because he knows it's not true. He knows it's bullshit. He knows you fabricated those facts about 6% working in the office, because they don't work in the office. You see, right there and then, every one of these deportation operations carries a different code than working in the office. So Elon Musk and Vivek were mad at deportation officers and task forces working on the street instead of sitting their fat ass in the office like Elon Musk and Vivek and Larry Ellison. No, Elon's not honoring our deportation efforts. He's not cooperating with the program. Because our deportation officers are effing off because they're not in the office. But we got rocket entertainment. We got rocket. We can all sit around and watch the rockets. You realize that rocket was probably a taxpayer-funded rocket that blew up? He thinks it's entertainment because it's not his money, right? We gave it to him. In Argentina, they don't have any rocket programs. They cut them all out. So again, some people need to adjust their attitude. And start appreciating the government employees that never were working from home all day. So actually, to meet what Elon wants, they have to stop deportation operations and go back to the office. That's really what they have to do. Otherwise, the codes are going to say they're out of the office. It's not working from home when you spend 40 hours on the street and 10 hours in your house doing some administrative work. Great. It's not overtime either. It's called availability pay for at least law enforcement. So again, you know, you better learn what you're actually talking about, because what you're doing is talking shit, all of you. And I do appreciate Kristi Noem, as probably all of the DHS people do. She hit the ground running, and it's wonderful. But again, you know, we're the ones that went through the academies. We're the ones that were in the military, went to basic IT, went to combat. You know, Elon worked in the trenches of the tech industry. Ordered out for food. Even if he slept in his office, it's better than the places we slept. Talk about the replacement theory. Hero Elon. He suffers for all of us. Correct. Eat some Indian food. Imitation chicken, but butter imitation chicken. Again, nothing against Elon Musk, but he needs to wake up. A little bit too manic. And what he's doing, and what the others are doing, is they're ruining it for us with the judges. It's like the same idea that there's no checks and balances in the executive branch. It's, you know, from on the inside. No, you can't do anything that's unlawful. There's actually even a protection if you refuse to do it. There will be a prosecution of the people that, if they retaliate against you. It's the same idea. These judges are watching. And you see you turn off that money, yet nothing happened at SpaceX. They didn't miss their little rocket entertainment money. The judges will begin asking questions. And even if you're right, they'll make you wrong in their courtroom. Right? I know they're not all liberals. Because we're not here to live Cuba right before the revolution. Right. In some ways, that was Florida. And I think Florida is beginning to falter a little bit. Nobody, you know, I mean, they can afford to live in Florida, but I think you got to remember there's a supporting community. What they think is people that don't have a lot of money have nothing to do with what their life is. If the supporting community pulls out of Florida, it's just going to get more expensive, more expensive, more expensive. Right? But again, I think the prices are dropping. I'm sorry. So again, it's like they don't realize what assholes they are because they've just been assholes their whole life, and some spycraft entity had them paid money. You pay them, then you get money. That's how it works. So they knew that if they gave Elon something, they would get something. It could be Russians for all we know. Nobody cares. Saudis, whoever. But yeah, he's not self-made. He's a system-made. He's a spy-made billionaire. The question is, which spies? Well, because you have to realize people in CIA are individuals. If when they're there, they're in the same system. And if it tells them not to go against Elon Musk or to give him something, they'll do it. Right? So again, he is who he is. He's got all that money. He says he's going to do something, but right now it looks like he's playing a game. And maybe you don't care what I say, but again, on the other end of me is a bunch of judges. And Clarence Thomas, he's got concerns because he knows what conservatism is. He may not be a perfect person like all of us. Alito, it says too. Well, because it's not conservatism to cause upheaval. That's what quote-unquote liberals do. Again, the world's a mess. So as far as Trump doing things, allowed to do it, but there's repercussions, and I don't know if he understands that. And I don't know why he doesn't understand that. I'm not in your briefing, so I don't know what you're telling him. Right. Well, the art of the deal includes the art of the courtroom. And I guess because he's made it so far, he feels like he owns it. Right. But you don't. Well, because you're getting into places where judges have ties to where they're not just going to let it end. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'll get Judge Cannon on the Supreme Court. I don't know. Well, government employees, for one, there's no way that it's only 6%. I'll tell you, there's no way. They just read the codes of out of the office as not being in the office. Which means you can go out of the office for 1 hour and go to the Federal Reserve. You can do a 40-hour week, spend 1 hour driving to the Federal Reserve, dropping off a deposit to the Federal Reserve, and then anybody that handles cash has to go to the Federal Reserve, I think, once a week. Right. So you would actually only do 39 hours. And you would be part of that, what is it? What do they try to say? 94%. So if you actually did an out of the office thing for 1 hour and carried that code, they would say you weren't in the office 40 hours. If you were on the street for 60 hours as a law enforcement officer and spent 10 hours in the office doing work or 10 hours at home, you would be part of that 94% that didn't spend time in the office 40 hours a week. And they'd call you a lazy bum. That's shit that Hitler used. So everybody out on that task force let's get loud. Went all the way up. Everybody out on that task force are lazy bums because they're not in the office. So again, be careful what you're saying because you just sent people to work over. They're probably working in the federal government. You have to be available to work. So the trade-off is the agreement was that they give us an automatic 25% over our base pay, which is kind of screwy because they could actually pay you that. They're just going, oh, we gave you an extra one. No, you didn't. That's what you should be paying me anyway. If we compare to the private sector wages. So the 25%, they'll give you extra in your pay. You have to be available to work 2 hours every day overtime if called upon. Right. and you can get away with not working it if, if it wasn't, if you weren't called upon. So they kind of say, you can make that money, but part of it is being available when we call you, right? And then, of course, if they ask you for double shifts, again, in law enforcement, is generally you have to work it, right? Unless there's some overwhelming reason. Right. So the people that they're talking about and saying that they're lazy, and the guy in ICE, he kind of said, well, he wasn't buying into it, but he didn't want to buck it, He kind of was like, yeah, well, if it's true or if it's you, whatever it is. But it's not true. Because everybody on the deportation task force and everybody out there with Border Patrol are not going to spend time in the office. They're not going to do 40 hours, but they might be doing 80 hours on the border or 80 hours on the street. I mean, I was somebody that I didn't ask them for all the hours I worked. I worked for free. It's set up so that you can't. It's not easy to get overtime, and if you work it, you either work it or your case fails or your project fails. So this is really what's going on in the government. Elon's full of shit. You got people that work and don't claim the hours because they can't pay you for it because it's not scheduled overtime. Right. So if you're on the street and you work your extra 2 hours, you end up and you have to work another extra 4 hours, you work it, and they don't pay you. It may not even be on your pay paperwork. Right. That's the reality of what's happening. Try to adjust it here to make sure I'm still broadcasting. I'm outside. Boy, it's beautiful out here. So the reality is that there's people that they counted, and everybody's going, oh, what lazy pieces of shit, what scammers. They're actually working on the street 40 to 60 hours, and they spend 10 hours in the office to do some administrative paperwork. They're not Remphos. They're not sitting on their ass like all of you in your office. They're actually out on the street, whether it be cold, hot, or anything in between, whether it's snowing or, again, sometimes they have snow days, I do admit. But again, they're doing those missions. And there's other people. There's people that don't even have an office. They just travel around the United States inspecting facilities. They're lazy pieces of shit. No, we didn't live the spoon-fed billionaire or spoon-fed multimillionaire life, although some people in government now are. I mean, the whole world's upside down. There's just no way that only 6% of the government works 40 hours a week. Like, the insinuation is that the 94% of government is home all day in their bathrobe eating bonbons. It's bullshit. It's communism. It's Sovietism. That's what the communists do. Correct. He's trying to cuck the federal government employees. He's trying to cuck ICE. He's trying to cuck the Marshal Service. Yes, he is. Agree, Larry. You sat there and you worked 60-hour work week and 10 hours in the office, and he's mad that you didn't spend 40 hours in the office because you spent it in, a TB-written den interviewing people trying to figure out where the sex offender is. That's another thing that goes on. How risky it is to do some of the government work. Going to places with people like COVID, tuberculosis. There's a reason that the federal employee program still pays for and Blue Cross Blue Shield still pays for COVID tests because the law enforcement officers and government people that are visiting people need it more than everyone else. They're more likely to catch it. You got people with immune deficiencies. They catch every disease in the book, and you got to go in there and interview people. But you're part of the 94% that weren't sitting your fat ass in some chair like a techie fat rat in your office. This is the next phase. They killed John Luna. That was the first phase. This is their final solution, take over of government. They killed Jonathan Luna. They disappeared Bob. They and their cronies in government. Here we are at the end of it. Again in the 90s. At the end of it, because it's not going to go. You're going to be shut down, all of you. If you change, then you won't be. No, they're using Trump. They manipulated all of us, including Trump. They're using artificial intelligence to do it. They're half the reason the kids are trans to begin with, and then they come against it. You see how they do that? They used AI to cause your children to be trans and then say they shouldn't be and say you're dirty for it happening, and then they take over the government and they have rocket entertainment like it's Havana before the revolution. In fact, that's what's going to happen, you see. It's funny because I brought that up like 15, 20 years ago. You have to be careful which direction you're going because there's a mechanism that causes the revolution in Havana, and you can't go near it. So again, every time they tell you that only 6% of the government works 40 hours in the office, that includes law enforcement officers, the ones that aren't working in the office, because they don't work in the office. Now, there's no reason that if I'm out on the street for 60 hours that I go to my office. Because my office is the street. Again, what he's using is the mechanisms that the communists use, that the Nazis use. Well, he might be one himself. I don't know. Mossad has to check that out, and Shin Bet needs to check that out. But, you know, it does not compute, techies. You're dissing the people that are out there doing what you've asked them to do. In fact, now we have these massive task forces. All hands on deck. FBI, Marshal Service, everybody in DHS, local police, state police. But they're all lazy for doing that because they're not sitting their fat ass in the office like a techie geek. Ordering out for Chinese that costs, $30 a plate, not giving a shit about money. They got so much. You can't have it both ways, all of you. Elon says we're going to like what he's going to do. We're already not liking it. He tries to act like You know, all the people doing this deportation operations, he like colors you like you're this liberal scumbag that doesn't show up to work. And it's not just not showing up to work, you're just a liberal scumbag because you're in the government. Meanwhile, what's the reality of Elon Musk? Who paid Elon Musk? Who made him? Liberals. Again, Trump was a liberal. So again, you just be careful what direction you're going because it's going to come against you. As the metaphysics is an MFR. Actually, Kristi Noem is the closest to real that I've seen. Right. At least she's giving respect to the people in the street. Right. Again, she should realize this. Maybe she doesn't know, but the statistics that they're using is BS because the people that are on those task forces are not considered in their office. That's the way the pay codes work. And you know how many hours they're working. The chances of them actually spending more than a couple hours in the office a day, if that, is slim to none. I have to go back, and they might go back to the office to do some processing. Right. And that's not everybody, because you know there's people, they drop it off, they do the processing, and they hit the streets again. See, they're not in the office. They're getting over, they're scamming, they're in their bathrobe. So again, be careful what you're all saying and what you're all doing. I don't want to hear. I've been doing government work almost straight through. When I left government work, they wouldn't let me be, so I went back to doing government work for free, of course. And of course, not for free. They should pay me because they wanted me to do it. Right. So I'm surely the most government civilian left in the world, or the most government non-government guy. Right. I used to do it like you won't see it on the open online because I used to do it secretly. I'd send it to the agencies or the senators or the congressperson. Back when I was supporting Border Patrol when the Bush administration was trying to arrest them and did arrest many of you, and I think we did get them pardoned and other things. So I was supporting you, but I was also secretly sending stuff to senators, congressmen, that kind of thing, as far as operational stuff. Didn't make any sense to me. I mean, again, you have to consider what the agent is going through at the given moment and what mistakes could occur. But again, things are done by accident, under duress. I even think Slater should have fought that case. He's the one where somebody grabbed his taser and he shot the guy. Now, I don't know if he knew for sure the guy didn't have a taser. That's one. Probably shouldn't have shot him. But again, there's a psychology in government. He was in the Navy too. So there's a psychology in the military that if you lose your equipment, it's like the most horrific thing on earth. So he panicked. And again, he's had some years in the military. He's had some years in the police department. He's got a little bit of PTSD going on, especially in that situation. Again, the Border Patrol has the same thing. But I think it was deep state takeover. I think that's what they were trying to do. Because it was just after they tried taking over the Marshal Service, and maybe did, and the courthouse and all that. I think the techies were part of it the whole time. I think Jonathan was killed because he was investigating somebody he didn't want him to investigate. I believe his friend, they brought her in. You know, you either come in and be part of it or we're going to kill you like John. It's just ludicrous. Elon Musk, a Peace Prize. It's like that kid in school that everybody was just like, you can't believe a darn thing this kid says. We're gonna give him a Peace Prize. You just know he's full of shit, you know? I guess I thought Greenland was foolproof. I guess not. 85% of Greenland says no. I think you get it. That's a little bit too high. I think it was like 70% or 60%. You could probably get it down. 85%. I guess they're predisposed to say no. So it's over. Greenland's not going to be Trumpland. Hey, you see what I'm doing? That's what Elon Musk does all day long. Running people on the ground and then going over and buddying up with Trump. He's a backstabber. That's really who he is. An ingrate backstabber. Done great about being ingrate. Regular. Sam Altman agrees. I guess Altman did something wrong. Violated terms of agreement. Big deal. You got billions of dollars. Who cares? You're going to obsess over that the rest of your life? Regular. Now, they did stuff to Trump to try to own his machine. And, Trump's kind of in the corner. He had to agree to it. Right. But I don't think he has to agree now. Well, again, you got to get the Democrats. I think are purposely. I mean, shouldn't Pam Bondi have already been confirmed, or at least had a vote? Maybe it's not Dan, but I think she should have already been confirmed. It's very important. She needs to go in there and look at this stuff. She's a career person. She's a respectable and responsible person, and she knows how to do it. Again, you pardoned all the J6 people. Fine, that you felt it's the way you wanted to go. But then you fired 20. See, it adds up. Now, Pam Bondi would have did it all differently. Because she knows how to do it, so you don't have to fight it later. Or if you have to fight it later, it's an easy fight. Now, judges, they're not buying into any, like, maybe certain judges will, but most judges aren't buying into why you turned off all that money. Again, when you try to trim from the government and you say we're doing this because we have to, but then we see Rocket Entertainment, and it's his own words, it's Rocket Entertainment. I mean, are you really doing anything but playing a game? So again, why do I bring that up? Because the same thing as October 6th. I don't want that October 7th. I don't want that October 7th to happen in the future here in the United States to all you CEOs and techies, even though I think you're losers and worthless. I predicted October 7th, okay, years prior. Correct. Remember, the day October 7th happened, Netanyahu theoretically believed it was going to be a normal day. Good to be the king kind of day. I am the seer. I mean, you can see to make a lot of money, but I've seen to make a lot of money, but you don't let me get anywhere. And that's your scam. Thank you, friend. Nice day out here. It's nice and warm. I'm out here in the sun. No, what spies do is they set in motion a series of events where John would just have bad luck and eventually most likely die or be killed, should I say. Even if he killed himself. Then it's still murder. What happened to John is still murder if it was spycraft murder. If it was suicide. I'm not sure where the coroner is. I don't know if the coroner was actually hinting that or not. Because the coroner says it was homicide. The FBI says it was suicide. It's just strange because they said he stabbed himself in the back. And, that's a spy would send that message. Trying to say that John Luna was a backstabber. I mean, they're psycho. They do all sorts of weird stuff to play on your head. He could have been physically murdered. Very easily. But again, all they have to do is take over the community. The FBI community. The FBI will say what they want. I believe our judges were blackmailed at that time. They would agree with whatever you came up with because they don't want that happening to their family. So again, if somebody's telling you I'm full of shit, remember I predicted October 7th years prior, and I spoke several times. Or not spoke, I don't know if I spoke about it a little bit, but I mostly posted online. I think it even got me kicked off of Netanyahu's Facebook page. I think they blocked me, but I put it other places. That's why I can't probably bring it up and show you that I said it to Netanyahu. Oh, no, I did. I don't know. I put it on Netanyahu's page, but I can't post there anymore, at least on Facebook. But that, they hated on me and blocked me. I said, you got to do something. Now, I said appoint Allmart. That may have been mad, but you could do something. It's just like I said to hire the one retired Border Patrol guy, and instead I think they hired Mike Banks. That's okay. You can do that. I'm just trying to point you in a certain direction. Right. I told Texas, you need to get somebody in from, and they may have had him there, but I think it was about the same time. I said, you got to get people in there from Border Patrol. They can tell you what to do and tell you because again, one of the big problems is laying hands on somebody. So that's why the defensive system has to be better. Because once you lay hands on somebody, then you have to go through a process. Now we're trying to get that process minimized. But in some cases, if the judges rule a certain way, you could end up stuck with somebody for 2 years because you laid hands on them. I said, shore up your fence system so that we don't have to put hands on them. And again, it was funny because I did see them. They were doing like pushing them with the fence so they wouldn't touch them. Again, yeah, what's happening is you're setting up yourselves to fail in the courtrooms because you can fail in the courtrooms before you even get there. Well, I think Homan did the math, and he came up with a real saying, hey, there's no way we're going to get past a certain point. It's funny because, I tried to marry these women that were here illegally. I really did. And they worked for the deep state against me. So again, you're being deported. See, you should have listened to me. Because what happens to me affects everyone. It really does. You just don't know it. And it's just, like it says, it takes 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. Maybe even 10 years sometimes. Again, some of you won't experience it until you go to hell. But again, God reminds me, you're experiencing it here. You just don't, because they're so rich in the tech industry, they don't realize how rich they could be, how wonderful life could be outside of where they actually are. So essentially, the tech industry selected law enforcement people to stay and then tried to kill everyone else. And of course, it was people they believe would just do what they tell them to do. That happened in the 90s, as early as the 90s, is what it began, I think. They're still doing it. They may have done it to Trump. I don't know who was manipulating and operating Trump. Right. You can't trust anybody when that kind of stuff's involved, because it could be the person sitting right next to you telling you wonderful things about you, but yet what's the reality? They're the ones that set you in that motion, so you'll cling to them. Spies will cause issue in your life, so you'll cling to them. There's no doubt that Elon Musk is part of a spycraft thing. No doubt. Or he wouldn't have lived this long. So again, just, he's a protectee. He needs to act like he's interested in being protected. Yeah, I'm trying to paint a picture so you realize what people are seeing. Again, we're years past the deep state beginning to harass people. Again, you say something online, the thing will attack you. I've tested it a million times. So the average person, they don't want to deal with that. They maybe didn't have military training, law enforcement training, never had to really, weren't homeless when they were a kid, that kind of thing for a period of time. Right. Had parents that didn't give a shit, father would beat you. So you didn't have that stuff, and they don't want to deal with it. But it's in their mind. They know what you're doing. See, the worst part is when they're afraid to speak about it. Then you don't know what's in their mind. So again, it's weird for me because Hashem is putting this information through me, and Hashem being God. And that's how I could warn you about October 7th to a certain degree. Thank you, Larry. And that's what's going on here now. Again, I spoke to you about a revolution beginning in 2024. For all intents and purposes, it's here. Now, it's been minimized maybe because we did change the future a little bit. Thank you, Larry. Well, because you're in power, but there's people out there that now are radicalized beyond a certain point to not accept you in power. So again, the idea of favorability is very important, more so now. Again, there's two reasons. One, the way that Biden won and the way that Trump won. So you have to stay on the right side of favorability. But if they're radicalizing, you have to stay on the right side of favorability for something a little bit more serious. Right. No, if they overwhelm in numbers, there's no way to stop them. And that's what this thing's insinuating. So if enough people are fed up, again, you can have a J6 all across the United States, and they could be ripping techies out of their office and beating them senseless. Right. Again, how did they do that? Overwhelming numbers. Great. So again, there I can explain how it happens, just so your little foolish minds don't deceive yourselves. I mean, I was one of the people that protected the Indian people and the Sikhs because when God told me go to Newark, go to New York, I went down to Virginia, different places to protect the ethnic communities. I was healing them because, again, when you're cursed, then people hate you. The othering, right? The othering was going on, right, as they put in that news article. Right. So some of the people I protected weren't necessarily Arabic culture. It was people that looked like Arabic culture. So I was healing them so that things wouldn't happen to them. Whereas they might even become a terrorist, or whereas people would hate them for being a terrorist when they're simply just, a spiritual person with dark skin. So the direct message from God was that all these people are being cursed down. And if we don't heal them, there'll be additional terrorist activity, and they'll be hated on to an additional degree. But I probably don't have anything left to heal it for all of you. Yeah, maybe if my life changes, where it should have changed decades ago. I really don't have anything left. I can feel it. They killed your healer like I told you not to do. So you have to get my life back up, then the planet will open up my healing again. Well, if you make people afraid to speak, then you won't know what's in their mind. And then we're getting there. You know, although some people speak, again, the mass numbers that you believe support you, they don't support you. I still believe we can get to the point of either keeping prices somewhat stagnant or maybe even dropping them, but you have to put your foot down, and you have to demand that these corporations and these wholesalers and that they all cooperate. I mean, when you look across the board, what do they actually have to do? They have to lose that much money or not make. It's not a matter of losing money. It's not making the maximum amount of money they can make. And that was never what people were looking for in those industries back when inflation is controlled. So again, be careful what you're saying because you're dissing military, you're dissing law enforcement people, including the people that are out on these task forces right now, and people that are down on the border. Again, those military guys that went down on the border, what do you think's happened? Their families are back home. They're not around their family. Wife might have a newborn. We have a teenager going through shit, and now they're down on the border. Border Patrol people, if they're coming in working a shift and a half or 2 shifts, what do you think's happening there? Same thing, but a little bit closer. But generally, techies don't experience that kind of stuff. So I'm not here to respect techies over government people. Again, I speak shit about or talk shit about government. Actually, I speak shit. Talk is cheap. No, but I talk shit about government people sometimes. But when it comes down to it, you're not going to tell me techies are worshipable over them. Again, it's a big replacement theory. Again, with Elon, he does that. I don't know if he knows he's doing that. He'll say something and then he'll actually act it out. Well, a big replacement theory. It's the techies that are actually the heroes. The government worker, the FBI, the CIA, the Marshal Service, the ICE, the DHS, they're just lazy nobodies who won't come to work. But yet they're on the street more hours than you spend in the office. Or you're even asking them to spend in the office. I mean, it's just stupid because you're not going to get a change on that. And maybe he'll lie down the road. He's full of shit anyway half the time. He's a grifter. Come on. Actually, judges were in on that. That's what judges see. Judges believe Elon is a grifter. And judges is just the think tank. Again, a lot of people won't tell Elon the truth because they're not the type to help him. We need to help him get past where he is because he can be a great man. Again, like Putin. Putin can be a great man. Everybody could love Putin again. Trying to replace veterans and law enforcement, government people. And government people, I mean, if your job is to travel around the United States and inspect, whatever it is, refineries or something, you're not going to be in the office. It's ludicrous. Right. Refinery is your office, whatever the refinery of the week is. Now, there are people that probably goof off. But again, if somebody spends 39 hours in the office and 1 hour taking money to the Federal Reserve, because any agency that handles cash once a week has to go to the Federal Reserve. Any office that handles cash. That's generally how they do it. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I think they do still. So they won't be in the office. They become the 94% that won't work in the office. Because they went to the Federal Reserve for an hour to make a deposit of receipts. So again, they misread all the pay codes, but they may have done it on purpose. No, because they're not telling you that 94% of the people are at home. They didn't tell you that. They want you to assume that. They want to put that in your head with their willpower. They never said that 94% of the people are sitting at home. They just told you they weren't in the office. The only way to come up with that is the code in the office. Right. Now, who knows? They may have been on a break. Oh, you're not in the office. If you require somebody, like if you take a 15-minute break and you're required to put that on your pay paperwork and you're given like 2 50-minute breaks a day or something, they would say you're not in the office 40 hours. Now, I don't know if they do that, if they count to that level or not. That's all it's saying, is that the office code, your pay paperwork doesn't say office code for 40 hours. That's all they're saying. So again, if you go on the road, if you're transporting somebody, like arrestees or prisoners or ICE detainees, you're not in the office. So you're a piece of shit, because you're in a bus transporting a bunch of detainees, and you're not going to say you're in the office because you have to account for where you are. That's what they did. Well, you brought it up, I'll bring it up. You want to tear us down, we'll tear you down. Besides, you all owe me money. I'm waiting for you to pay me. You're going to keep saying that, keep invoking it every day. They knew they owed me money. They knew they owed me money when I left the Marsh Service. I mean, people would talk about me getting my money. Where does it come from? It was the inside. You get your money that way. What do you mean my money? I'm supposed to get money? I had people actually tell me how I could get my money. Like, what do you mean get my money? Of course, it's bullshit. Deep state kills your life. Again, blackballing me from government, I didn't have a problem with that. That was the deal, actually. Right? Not now. I mean, you reneged, all of you, even before I got my retirement through. Blackballing me from life? No way. You'll all spend an eternity in hell. Now you know why I'm here, right? Because there's no being that God could have sent that did the damage to all of you for eternity kind of damage. And again, I don't believe hell is for eternity, but even a million years in hell, you really want to do that? Really? No, if you know what they're actually doing and the torturous things they're doing, you'd be okay with hell. And you'd understand hell. I never understood hell. Actually, I didn't want hell. The first thing I did when I woke up was try to move Christianity to realizing that God wouldn't put people in hell. And God doesn't, actually. And God says it in the scriptures. You all put yourselves in hell by putting other people in hell. And the little everyday sinner person, they're not going to hell. It's these big bosses, the techies, the government people, the politicians, if they're those people. Again, some of them are not those people. Right. So I never understood hell, and I thought it needed to be to do away with it. But eventually I realized it, how torturous these people were. Again, they can move their will and cause torture in your life. Because they powered up on this planet by, Satan paying them money and having big lives. They're actually the ones going to hell. But you'll see them in churches everywhere pointing at everyone else. But they're devils. They're actually devils. Real devils. No, I don't even know if the education guy's a devil. The education guy's he's whack. Like in Oklahoma. Because he's going to go, how many Bibles I put in the hands of children? You got to understand church culture. It doesn't matter where it all goes. It's the fact that he put that many Bibles in kids' hands. Praise the Lord, brother. I think it's the most number of Bibles put in kids' hands in the history of the country. Maybe the world. How we visited with 15 people. You offended how many? 19, because the kids were even offended. So church culture, yeah, you went out and you spoke to these many people about Jesus Christ and salvation. But when you offend them, it's kind of like a minus. You erase 19 people from the kingdom. Nobody's ever going to be able to fix that. But then God says, well, they're forgiven then because you messed it up. They messed it up as a Christian. Me? I messed it up as a Christian? Nah, I never pushed anything on it. Oh, I did. Did I? Oh, yeah, it's Basil. Basil, a Jewish guy. I don't think he appreciated me buying him a Bible. So a Jewish guy had a heart attack. He was a disabled guy that did that cleaned up around a courthouse, and he had a heart attack. He used Ultimate Orange. He's like, I don't know, is he like 60 years old? I haven't gone near that kind of stuff for years. I knew there's a drop dead date on that in your life, like like the energy drinks, but pretty energized. Used to be one of the original energy things was called Ultimate Orange. Now the guy that bought it died young, or invented it died young. I think that's a cue. I think he died about 45 or something. Right. But I took some. I took a Bible and some Christian information to him while I was laying in bed. Thank you, Larry. So again, I may have offended him. I usually don't, I don't think I knew he was Jewish. I don't think I knew he was Jewish at that point. I think I knew afterwards. But I spoke to him later, I think, when he was well. And then he told me he was Jewish. Thank you. I'm like, oops. Thank you, Larry. Well, offend the devil, well, that's easy to do. So I'm outside now, and my ear's starting to. I just heard it like kind of almost pop. So again, it's from being inside too much. I'm glad I'm out here. I'm gonna spend as much time as I can out here, right, while it's warm. Got some days of warmth. Praise the Lord. That's how Christian culture works. They don't care what the results are. Just that figures. It's like stats. we got 7,000 Bibles in the hands of children this week. We visited with 150 people, but you offended 190. Even the kids and the grandma was offended. No, I love Christianity, but of course Satan took it away. That's what they do. They take away what you like, and try to put something else in there like sexuality, and maybe committing crimes and shit, drugs, alcohol, heroin. In Doug Bettman's case, they caused it. Even if he used it as a kid, it's something they did to him to cause him to go in that direction. If they start putting panic attacks in, they did Bustamante, or he never would live that life. So again, I don't know what Abbott has available to him, but he needs to move some protection on the border. I mean, if something needs to, again, if they come in there on the border while you're working down there on the border, and they come in, we already know. I don't know the distance from the border, but I think there's some incidents that were in proximity. They have armored vehicles. They have the Mexican cartels have armored vehicles. They have belt-fed, large caliber machine guns. And again, they know they have RPGs, and of course, with that kind of money, who knows what they have? Because they actually could come up with something soon. Somebody might even contact them. Once it gets in the news that El Mencho was buying RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, somebody might say, "Hey, I got this much armament or this much munitions," and then contact him and say, "Give me this much money," because they know what he's paying now. Right. Thank you. So on the border, you have a lot of soft-sided vehicles. You have a lot of dismounted people. So you need something in the area that can counter that threat and effectively respond. Now, as far as putting large machine guns on top, I don't know where that authority comes from. But as far as having that as a protective vehicle, like the SWAT units that use the MRAP, you need to start deploying those type of vehicles as soon as possible. An easy way to do it is just send a driver down there with the vehicle if you have them. Some of them are in storage somewhere, I imagine. Some probably need to be refurbished. We sent a lot overseas. I saw that they sent a bunch to Haiti. They sent it to Ukraine. Thank you. But we went back to more, some of the units went back to more traditional mechanized and armor, you know, where it's an M1 tank and a Bradley fighting vehicle. So they sent, you know, that stuff ended up going into storage. So Abbott might have something to put on the border there rather quickly. Might be easier for him than Hegseth. But the easiest thing is really, like I said, is to find the driver. You can even find the driver and a what do they call that? The vehicle commander. So usually, like, the driver's a lower enlisted member, like a private, or you know, all the way up to probably a corporal. Although you can find sergeants that can drive those things, and maybe that's what you want to do. You find your people that can drive it. A sergeant, that way you have a non-commissioned officer driving the vehicle with a little bit more discernment. But in the military, what happens is there's like a lower enlisted that drives the vehicle, and then the non-commissioned officer, the E5, E6, is in the shotgun seat directing the driver. Just depends what you want to do. So out there, if those vehicles exist in Texas National Guard, Texas Military Department inventory, there'll be a driver assigned. There's probably a squad assigned, but you don't have to deploy the whole squad. And the squad might be there. We don't know who they sent. Those people might have these vehicles in their units, but you could essentially, you know, deploy the driver if you can, and deploy the non-commissioned officer, or find people that can drive those things, and then send them to get them, because you can just bring the vehicle. You don't have to bring the unit. The unit might actually already be there, because we already have a bunch of units moving to the border. But you need something to counter a larger threat that you don't have. Again, the Border Patrol is going to look pretty stupid if they don't have something to counter that threat and it happens, because they're going to end up dead. I think Abbott's probably the quickest way to get some of that to the border, if he has it. I don't know what's in their inventory and how it works. Well, again, they might have to contact the Pentagon or DOD and say, you know, we want to use this. Can we use it? And they'll say, yeah. Because it differentiated between, which I'm not sure how it works, but it differentiated between Texas Military Department and the National Guard inventory. Like, some of the National Guard inventory doesn't fall under the Military Department. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it kind of said. Right. So like it's in their inventory, but they're not the end authority for it. I guess to use it, they contact DOD or something. Again, at a minimum, it's someplace for them to go if they come under that kind of heavy fire. At a minimum, they get up inside of that and stay somewhat protected. Ambush has already come up a couple times, and that usually does come up a lot of times. Actually, I'm not up as high as I should be. If I was, I'd see probably a lot more ambush. No, there's the number of people that did this to me, you know, is in the hundreds. People just made money and made way in government doing this to me. Again, you should realize that also. No little thing. And of course, people outside government also. There's no reason for them to do it other than somebody was paying. And they were paying because they were crooks. I mean, we're talking, 20 years since I left government. That's a long 20 years. every day. Again, if I don't go outside, they don't. They do it online, but they don't do it physically. But they're there to do it. Right. That'll get them in hell. I mean, that's for sure. Again, a lot of the crime exists because of them. They play that game. You need us. You need to give us more intrusion, more way. Yeah, it overwhelms law enforcement so they can't investigate what they need to investigate. It overwhelms law enforcement to the point that some of them will give up and become part of the corruption. Waiting for my doctor, my podiatrist, to get back to me. I'm trying to figure out what kind of shoes to buy. I've never received like a satisfactory response from podiatrists on what shoes to buy. I wish they just prescribed something. It'd just be easier. I think because everybody's different. What I'm getting inside is everybody's different, and if they prescribe it to me and it doesn't work, they just messed up. Like on the inserts, if they do the custom inserts, they can have them remade up to 6 months after you purchase them. Right. So it's not as detrimental. But he showed me a shoe, and I knew it was a custom shoe. I didn't ask him about it. He tried to show me what kind of shoe. It was actually his shoe. Right. There's a couple ortho companies, so I just sent a model of one to him and said, hopefully he sees it and tells me whether I should buy it or not. Because he tells me to buy a stability shoe, but I used like Asics stability shoes before and everything, and I don't think they worked all that well. So I'm trying to find something that's actually orthotic friendly, orthopedic friendly. Or not orthopedic, orthotic friendly, right? Podiatry friendly. So I can't believe I'm trying to go get massages, and now we have a tuberculosis outbreak here. And I can't move until my lease is up unless you give me the money you owe me, or at least part of it. Thank you. But it's good to be out here and get the sun. You guys returned the trash compactor. Okay, all right. There's a lot of standing water still. It's melting real good because it got so warm today. But the ground's just saturated. It's going to ice up pretty bad back here as a big puddle. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't think if it goes down to freezing tonight, does it? But it was so cold for so long that it just all turned to ice versus snow. Like big ice cubes trying to melt.
Well, I didn't live one day of life. It's like like I said, it's an illusion of life. Right? Again, maybe you can think that I had a better life than someone else, but again, I'm being tortured every day. Who, it's no life. Only because I had some sort of retirement, it might look a little better. Right? I mean, when I tried to buy a house, I was tortured out of that. Again, the first time was my mother was offering to co-sign, and then they freaked her out, freaked my brother out, things. And again, they were already putting PTSD in me and panic attack when I was in the Marshal Service, and that includes Jonathan Luna's friend. She's not innocent of everything, but maybe innocent of some things. Right? That's their scam. That's how they manipulate you, including how they manipulate you sexually. I mean, they're actually like like a sex cult, really, to a certain degree. I'm sure there's sexuality going on around it and over it. Yeah, it's very satanic what they did to me. Very satanic. It includes the churches and everything. It's disgusting. People don't care. You get some money, you get forgiveness for a crime you engaged in, and they do whatever they tell them to do. Right? Just really a void the whole time period. Just a big void. But again, God judged the entire planet with it. Basically, the entire planet is involved in it. When you're ready to pay me, let me know. But you know what's going on now? The PIs are now changing the narrative and the people that they're manipulating because I changed what I said online and what I'm posting online. So again, our primary function right now is to figure out how to protect soft-sided operations, dismounted personnel. I mean, if I were up there, I'd be deploying the strikers. Now, again, they can't be present for everything, but as long as they're patrolling, El Mencho's people will get the idea. And again, Apaches make a great effect, or even just a helicopter with, weapon systems. Like a utility helicopter with weapon systems. Again, A-10s will always present a certain image. Right. Again, Border Patrol can, Border Patrol can use the capabilities of those aircraft without they don't have to like say, oh, I need you to shoot somebody, but you can call them in to take a look from that vantage point, right, into Mexico or into the river valley or whatever it is. No, I believe if we're gonna do something in Mexico, the first operation will most likely be, unless we're just snatching somebody to try in the court of law here in the United States. But if we're going to actually take out somebody or something or someplace, it's going to be a drone. Not going to send a SEAL team. Waste of an asset. Like if we're going to destroy some drug lab in Mexico, we're just going to send a drone. But we'd have to do a snatch. We would send SEALs or somebody like that. Rob them and then produce them in court. 3 hours later. Rob them and then produce them in San Diego federal court. Bring it back to Coronado. Marshall's waiting. Hook him up. Take him to court. They'll spin their heads around. 1 minute they're in Mexico, 3 hours later they're in a federal courtroom. Get snatched. Marshall's waiting to transport them. Although they pull an RPG out, it'd be a death sentence. Before they get that RPG fired, poof, they'd be ended. Again, if we were to go in, it would involve so much prep work. Their minds would be mush probably before we get in there. And he might already be mush. That's maybe why he's buying the RPGs. I understand he's building underground fortresses and RPGs, so I believe he's being operated psychologically. Yeah, the signs are that he's losing it. 10%. Thank you, sir. Usually. Well, I don't see the civil affairs programs, what we're supposed to do in Central America and South America yet. I mean, I brought up a couple over the years, last so many years, but I'm not seeing the next, because that's actually, the root cause. The weird part is the root causes of immigration. We actually were the first people to do that, I think. The Trump administration, at least, right? I think Jared did it. And some people with him. Right. It's funny, then you're like, what is that? It was our stuff. They stole it. Actually, they didn't steal it. Again, government is government. Right. Well, like look at El Salvador. That's part of what they're doing. It's part of that. They're getting rid of the root causes of immigration in their community, or emigration at that point. Right. So I guess we have helped. Do we help? I think we invested in that, didn't we? Or no? We should have. Thank you, Larry. So again, so you understand, because they go, you're liberal? No, well, that's part of it. Getting rid of the criminals so that the people aren't beat up every day. Give me your lunch money. Yeah, that's kind of that theme in those countries. You go to work and they're being shaken down. A factory comes in, they get shaken down. You've got to pay protection to run the factory. So, BMW will pull out or something like that. They don't want to deal with it. Right. Well, there's no way in Mexico for law enforcement to do their job and for the military to do their job until all the people involved, including their families, live on military bases that are protected. And throughout the day, they have enough facilities to go to school and everything. Because you can't live in the community. You're either going to become corrupt or be killed. Or quit your job and run off, screaming into the night. The system does not allow anything other than what's going on. You either don't bother El Mencho or you'll be through. Now, there are some high level units, but it's not, it's just few and far between. No, because they run their own intelligence operations. You know, you go to pick up your daughter, and then they're standing there. You get the message, right? Right. And next thing you know, narcotics. Again, it's either your daughter or narcotics will come over here and attack somebody else's daughter. Of course, it's going to be your daughter. You're going to keep her alive. Right. No, you need to build super military bases that had all the facilities on it so their families could live on it. Like all the shopping on there. I mean, you have to be careful with that because then you almost develop a secondary culture. But again, because it degraded so far, that's the only way to do it. And then you got to make sure they don't infiltrate on the base. Well, because you're protected then, and your family's protected, so you can stand up to them and not worry about what happens to your family. There's no real protection for the government people at the level they need it. Again, it's an all-out war. So if you go to work and you know your daughter's on base, and she's going to school on base, and she's got a couple churches and a couple clubs, right, that you join, and like a glee club or something, and choir and all that. There's something for the kids to do, something for the family to do. You have a commissary to buy food. It's a crazy life, but that's the only way I calculate it. It's the only way to do it, or the corruption will get whatever you do. Now again, you got the parents, and they'll probably maybe even kill the parents. Who knows? Okay, it's a nasty thing. Again, drones work. drones will work. But again, even if you eradicate it, they'll try to build it again because they'll backfill. So they wasted the years of the battle is what they did. And of course, they took me out while I was trying to get everything forward. That includes government people. They're on the take, man. What's Bannon say? Bannon attacking Elon today? Usually if I attack him, Bannon attacks him. Well, when Elon falls in the line, then we'll let you know. They killed people for so long, and people committed suicide off of what they did. They can't stop themselves. They're just sick in the head. And that may be every billionaire. I don't know. Right. Well, Howard swears it's not him. And swears he understands everything I'm saying, but he has to live his life the way he has to live it. Right. I think we can do it, but you got to put your foot down. You got to include the business community. I think we did that like 2008 or so. Like 2010. Like everybody has to pull their weight. We yelled at them. You wasted all the money. You took profit too much. We have to do that again. That's actually what worked. Again, I was part of that. And actually, I came up with some of that. Right. I know. And look, you're doing stuff that like those Democrats were doing before, so you already realize you have to do what works, right? Well, it's a difficult work. You actually have to start talking about it. You have to have meetings on it. Like, okay, so you're afraid that if you take 50 cents off that package of food, your profits drop to 3%, and they fire you and they sell your stock. So we have to because a lot of more pressure there not to do it, not to drop the price than used to be there. Once the price is up, if you drop your price, you may reduce your profit. And then, of course, they want to get rid of you. They want to fire you, take your pay package. Everybody wants to sell your stock. Homie ain't going down like that. His prices aren't going down. So again, we have to do something to break that. Correct. Again, President Trump removed the regulations, and he's trying to get the price of oil further down. Again, at a certain point, it's a little bit diminishing returns because it is pretty low. But again, it could go even further, and then it would probably still give them less of an operating cost. Amazon's got to be low. Oh, actually, Amazon went to electric. Oops. And that's the other point. How many people went to electric? I don't know if it matters for some corporations. No, because Amazon's electric. They don't. Gas prices don't. I guess it's you have to heat their place. So if you can bring the price of utilities down, that would help. I don't know where that is, where we see that at. Right. Well, that's what you have to do. Like you don't have to. I think they could actually drop the price of stuff, minutely, and it would, a few percent, and it wouldn't kill them. But again, it would come up, at the annual meeting that they want to fire everybody. That has anything to do with this lower profit. Right. So we have a lot of trouble in based upon, again, the psychology we have, the market psychology, the profit psychology, right? That wasn't there before. Everybody wasn't. I mean, it mattered, but now it's just like insane. Right. They didn't drop the interest. They're not going to drop the interest rate. Right. That hurts us. Well, if you free up, I understand. Last time they dropped it, the big conversation was, again, I remember what happened with last Trump administration. The big conversation was that the market factors were not and do not affect the market the way they used to. It's not as important. And I believe would it cause inflation. If he dropped the interest rates, would it cause inflation? It could to a certain degree, but I think it would do more. It would do more to bail. See, we need bailout, and when you drop the interest rate, it helps with bailout. And actually, right, if somebody's overextended, you drop the interest rate enough, it helps them, and they can bail out. A certain percentage still fail, but a certain percentage can now succeed based upon borrowing. Right. But I think the conversation, I don't know where the news article is. I probably posted it. They were the way certain economists were seeing it, that the interest rate staying up wasn't as important as it used to be. I guess maybe based upon certain economy, mixed with, maybe some inflation. But you see, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I don't believe it's necessarily demand. I think supply, we have to look at supply. Look at supply. See if supply dropped over the last so many years. Because it's a trick. If you're producing a product and you drop the supply, you can raise the price. Right. So again, you can make more money by only creating. Sometimes you can make more money by only like manufacturing 2,000 of something instead of 5,000. But then that causes inflation. But yeah, the idea is the same as what I've been saying. They have to be patriotic enough to control the prices. And then maybe you do some stuff where you say the people have to be patriotic enough not to fire a CEO or sell off the stock like Mad Dog just because they dropped their prices, the profit went down. You have to start speaking out to people and start speaking out to the corporations. We have to break this idea where they're afraid not to make that profit. I mean, the only other way to do it is communism, or so you consider it socialism, is to, if we believe the prices are incorrect, that I guess price gouging is the word you can use, but if we believe that they raise the price up to a certain point, we can do a tax or fee. And then we take that money and we give it back to low-income people so that they can afford to eat and stuff like that. That's a way to do it, if they won't cooperate. So essentially, they still have their profit margin, but then they got to, oh no, they don't, because they have to pay the fee, right? Right. Again, that's the only way to do it. I thought the Democrats were a little excessive what they were looking to do. The amount of tax they were looking at. Right. But again, we have to do something. Well, I think what's happening is, certain people are just, it's more discretionary spending. That's what we're looking at. I don't know where the money's coming from. Again, theoretically, I guess it could be the market. Stock market's probably where the discretionary spending money's coming from. Right. That's the only place I think that is delivering those kind of dividends. Again, well, people are complaining about that their pay packages are shrinking, except for the CEOs. Again, you see how that January 7th thing is developing, because there's like just tech employees like angry because their pay package is shrinking, their bonuses are shrinking, but the CEOs is getting bigger. You see how that's happening, right? Well, if the disgruntled people are H-1B and they're from India, they may know how to curse you. And the next thing, the people gets in the mind of the people, and they go out in the street and they rip you out in the street and beat you. Well, I still think the problem is that the prices can be reduced, and they're just not being. It's just not going to be reduced, or they're not going to reduce it, or they're not going to hold it stagnant. For personal profit kind of reason. It's kind of like 2008, but a little bit different. They're not taking all this, having all these soirees. And maybe they are. I don't know. But, generally they're not, because it's showing up as profit, which means they're not like, spending it on all those big parties and vacations and all those other things that they highlighted before during the 2008 crash. They were just pulling money out of corporate profits and spending it on just, employee extravaganzas, and maybe even paying, and maybe they are paying too much. I mean, we have these huge bonuses, and I don't like that bank, actually. It never worked out for me. What is that bank? I forget what it's called. I think they're the ones that do the Apple Card. Yeah, I once tried to get something from them. I couldn't. It just was weird. I don't remember the name of it. On the tip of my head. And they actually gave me the Apple Card, but I don't need it. It was a failed experience. It's one of the few banks that kind of really. It's actually one bank that's never been lucky. I just thought the curse was over because I got the Apple Card. I'm like, oh, it's finally over. The curse with that bank. What is that bank's name? Who backs the Apple Card? Wait, is this working? Oh, there it is. It was Goldman Sachs. I finally am lucky with Goldman Sachs. I got the Apple Card, and I was able to get the iPad and the iPhone until it turned into absolute torture. It was torturous. Everything I plugged into it failed. It was like the volume, and they may have hacked me, I don't know, but the volume was down. I couldn't get any volume out of it. It was only like 2 or 3 bars, and it's supposed to be like, 6 to 8 bars. It was like torturous. I should have known. Anything Goldman Sachs touches turns to shit in my life. It's like the Antichrist. I called what's his name the Antichrist because they screwed up my bonus because they canceled my account. They canceled a couple of my accounts, and I may have been hit by the banks. A couple of my accounts got canceled. What was that guy's name? Guy from, is it Bank of America? I actually respect Bank of America, but no, it was Chase, the dude from Chase. Demon. No, Demon. Your name is not Demon. It's Demon. So again, they're doing good. I think they're doing. Again, I disconnect when I try to analyze. I try to disconnect my personal life, how you all screwed me and owe me money. But I do see a lot of refinancing out there. I don't know if somebody's in a worse condition if they receive something that would work for them or not. That's the only area where you might want to intervene at some point if the refinancing and you know, because there's always going to be bankruptcies. It's just when they go up above a certain level. Of course, you don't want any, but when they go up above a certain level, that's when it begins to affect the economy, beyond what we can accept. So the only thing you might want to do is have some interest capped loan for people that can obviously make the payment, but their credit's kind of screwy. And the only way for them to do it is to have the interest rate kind of capped. That's the only one I would cap. Again, you could also actually give the banks incentive and help them with it, unless Elon's against it. Again, having the 4 years broken up like this is very difficult. And again, the last year or two of Trump was just shit. Even before COVID, you were going in the wrong direction. That's why I was moving around. People were attacking me, and it's just crazy. If they just would have let me be, I'd have been probably fine. Again, they blocked me from massage. I had to get out of there to get massage. And then when I started up in Oklahoma, I tried to move into some place, and people shaking their head no at me. I'm like, what? I'm sure that person got paid. I imagine that's what it is. I mean, you can't figure it out till you can figure it out. No, I told the woman I think I'm going to rent this place, and she shook her head no at me. I'm like, what? Otherwise, I'd have been settled in Norman and never would have moved. And it was a 2-bedroom. Would have worked. Boy, it's so nice out here. My ears are starting to drip, or starting to open, I think. Because they're making funny noises, but they were clogged before. Stay outside for a while. It's actually healthy to come outside, especially get the sun. Looks like the sun's starting to go down behind the... Yeah, it's getting late in the day. Oh, I didn't return that thing. I got to return that thing. Well, stay